Welcome, everyone. I am Dr. Dream. You are here for my podcast, the DMT Chronicles. And we're just at the beginning of all the interviews. This is the third interview in the series. And I have to tell you that it is incredibly exciting. Now, my guest today is someone that I've heard about for a while from her partner. And so it was only a matter of time before we connected and got to have a conversation, and this is it. And she and Guy will be back in another time to talk about Bobinsana with us, which is very exciting for me. But today, DMT Chronicles, this is all about DMT. And so, Vanessa, welcome to the DMT Chronicles.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to share my experiences today.
This is this is fun for me in so many senses. Um, and part of it is I don't ever want to sort of guide the discussion or anything like that. So I'm just going to kind of open it up for you to start wherever you'd like to start and take us on a journey as it were.
Okay, for sure. Back in 2017, I had a breakup with a boyfriend before I met my current partner, Guy, and he took his life. And after that, I had a really hard time. Just obviously, it's a hard thing. I kind of felt responsible for the fact that that occurred, and because we broke up and I was the one who led the breakup. And I was taking mushrooms quite a bit at the time just to kind of help my depression, like microdosing. But then one day I heard the Joe Rogan podcast. I don't know if you know the infamous lines about DMT, mushrooms times 1,000, plus aliens, right? So I'm like, I gotta try this. I gotta get this medicine. I don't know where to even start to look for it because, not like today where it's really available. It wasn't back in 2017. And the first place I kind of went to was my cannabis dealer. So I smoked cannabis back then, and I asked him, "Do you know where to get this stuff, N N-DMT?" And he's like, "No." He's like, "I have cocaine." And I'm like, "No, no, no. This is low vibe, low vibe. I want high vibe. I want this N N-DMT." And he says, "Well, I don't know anything about it. I've never heard of it. So I think you're out of luck." And I said, "Okay, no problem." And my search carried on. In about 2 or 3 weeks, the same gentleman came back to me and said, "So I can get that stuff, that DMT stuff." And I'm like, you can get it?" And he's like, "Yeah, but it's expensive." And at that time, I didn't care. I had maybe a little bit more disposable income. And I said, "Okay, well, whatever it costs, I'll buy like whatever you can supply." He's like, "I can get you a gram." So I'm like, "Okay, a gram, perfect." So I got my gram, and probably about 2 weeks later, and I was kind of hesitant. Should I get a sitter? And obviously, I do suggest that everyone possibly tries N N-DMT for the first time with a sitter. I have sat with a sitter before after my first few experiences when I wanted to do what they call the breakthrough dose. I didn't really know that I was doing a more mild dose than what I took to break through, which was for me 21 micrograms. And I was probably doing 8 to 12 micrograms in these sessions. I just had like a little yellow scooper that I didn't have a scale, and it said in the one side of the little scooper, it said 12. And then in the other scooper side, it said 8. So my first time, I just sandwiched it in between cannabis. And I did it on a Friday night. I knew my kids were in bed. Everything was quiet at home. I knew I had some space to experience this and not be interrupted. So, I got my little cannabis pipe. I sandwiched it in between cannabis. I wasn't really sure really what I was doing. I did like look at Arrowhead and all the different types of forums to kind of research what to expect. I listened to some Terrence McKenna, and I'm like, I'm good, right? So I put on my pajamas, and no way does it ever prepare you for the experience that you have. And I think especially the first time, it's something really special. My first journey was nothing like I've ever experienced in my life. In subsequent sessions, I've never had that same type of journey. So this was a really life expanding, smokable journey that I had. And so I took my first inhale, I held it in, I let it go. I took a very small second inhale and I laid back. I could feel the medicine come on. It felt like my soul kind of popped through the back of my head. And right away, I went through into this visionary space, closed eye visuals, where I was traveling up through it, looked through like a portal. I ended up in this, I would call it, it looked to me like a lighthouse. And it was a staircase going up, 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 up. And there was books surrounding that staircase. And I just shot straight through that staircase all the way up. And then I landed on the left foot. So on my left side. So it would have been the right foot of the Sphinx. I was, I knew about the Sphinx. I knew about Egypt. My sister was a big Egypt enthusiast. She had written speeches back in public school about mummification and stuff, but I really didn't know very much about Egypt. So I looked down. I could see that it was my own hands. And I looked down to my feet and I could see that the feet were my own, but I was in leather sandals that I don't like. It wasn't like sandals today in 2025 or 2017. They were like wrapped leather around my feet. And I was just walking forward towards the Sphinx. At this point, I kind of got a little scared because it wasn't anything I experienced before. So I opened my eyes and I just checked, yes, I'm alive. Yes, I'm still in my room. Holy shit, this is awesome. And I closed my eyes and laid back. And when I laid back, I was then, I feel, underneath the Sphinx in this tunnel. It had like archway ceilings with torches coming out of the wall on either side, and the torches were lit. So I continued down this path, my hands still outstretched. And as I walked down, I saw this torch on my right, and out of the torch came two intertwining serpents, shadow serpents, that came along the wall and up and then scooted down the wall and into my body. At that time, my stomach in the closed eye visual was vibrating and pulsating. And then again, I got a little scared and I opened my eyes. And the same thing was happening in my real life, in my real body. And I'm a personal trainer, I'm a Pilates instructor. I know I can't roll my stomach like what was occurring at that time, but even in real life, on the medicine, this is what was occurring. And I knew that was fine. That was okay. I was fine. So then I closed my eyes once again. And this time I landed in a space which I can only call the tree of life. It was a black shadow of a tree, and every leaf on the tree was a diamond. And in behind the tree, it was like it was cuboid, and it was two colors. So one color would be gold, one color would be purple, and then it would spin. The tree would stay static, but the background colors would change. Then it would be red, and it would be blue, and then it would spin, and then it would be white, and then it would be black. But the tree was always black, and those diamonds were solid. After a while, the medicine started to wear off, and I started going into fractal holographic neon patterns. And that's where I could see for the first time, embedded in those patterns, I guess we would term them insectoid beings. And I could see that they were there, but they were not pronouncing themselves to me. And I'm like, I'm looking at them, and I could see that there's beings, and I could feel their presence. And then just my vision then slowly started to wear off. And then I came back into this reality. And that was my first journey. My request was for that experience is that it helped me quit cannabis, because at that time, dealing with my old boyfriend's death, I was smoking a lot of cannabis. One could say it was a bit out of control. Like every moment I was smoking to try to calm my nerves, that they were just totally out of control. And from that moment, I had quit cannabis. It was done. So that was my first journey. It wasn't, I don't know if you want to ask me anything on that
Oh
or,
no, I was just going to say what a wild first journey, and
yeah.
your description of everything is truly beautiful. But how really fascinating. Now, you had when did you do then your second journey after that one?
So it was about 3 to 4 weeks later. My girlfriend, who had introduced me to ayahuasca back in 2016, had mentioned to me that she had a facilitator coming to do Breath of Five ceremony at her farmhouse. And I didn't really know anything about five. She kind of explained it to me that they call it the spirit molecule or the God molecule, and what might occur when I experience this medicine. And she told me it's going to be some breath work the night before. We're going to get up in the morning. We'll have a few hours, a sit down, a chat, maybe a talk about the breath work the night before. And then we'll sit in a circle, and the facilitator will supply the breath of five or the 5-MeO DMT to each person going around the circle. So I agreed to that, and I was interested in trying 5-MeO. I am a bit of a psychonaut all through my teenage years. I really like LSD, and still it's one of my favorite medicines today. Like I love liquid sunshine, and I've done mushrooms, and of course I tried N N-DMT, just that one. I still had that almost whole gram left, and I was ready to try five. So I packed my bags. I drove about an hour and a half away to her farmhouse, and we did breath work the night before. And I had a really cool release in my low back, some tension I was holding. We did Hepe, and this was a Hepe that was from Venezuela. So I'm not sure if it had a bit of the Yopo in it, which is another form of 5-MeO that I've also experienced in a ceremony in Mexico. But I did have some really extreme visions with just the Hepe. And then, we all talked about what happened through our breathwork journey. We had a light meal, would be our last meal of the night. And then we'd go to sleep. And in the morning, we'd get up and have our experience. There was about 8 of us. My girlfriend did not participate in the ceremony, but her husband did. She was having her moon, so she didn't feel it was a good time for her to participate in the ceremony. So it was me 6 strangers, the facilitator and her partner. So I was about the third person to go and experience 5. Everyone's experience I felt was beautiful and love and light filled. I did my journey. I only did one inhalation and I was blasted off. And I can only say that I didn't have any visuals. But I felt like I landed in a family reunion, like I would landed at the gates of heaven, and all of my family was there to greet me. I was hearing, "You're here too soon. What are you doing here? We love you. We miss you." And it felt like I was getting big, giant, ginormous hugs and love. And I was so glad to just be home. This is, oh, sorry. As the medicine started to wear off, I like wanted to put on the brakes. I didn't want to come back to this reality. Like I have 3 kids, I have a family, I love my family, but just things were very hard in life. I felt like I was on a gerbil wheel. I was raising 3 kids on my own. I had experienced this death. I hadn't really experienced much death before in my life. And there was no way I wanted to come back after experiencing that love and just that feeling of home. And I don't know, like I talked to my facilitator. He seems very calm and cool when we talk about the experience, but I think he was a little bit worried. I don't know. But I screamed out and like I've never yelled, like I yell at my kids, don't get me wrong, but not like this. I screamed out, "I don't want to be human. I hate humans. They're so cruel." And I was fighting my body. I did not, my soul, my being, my knowingness of Vanessa, she did not want to come back into this body. So the facilitator at the time had the group and I could feel them all put their hands on my body. Someone grabbed my feet. Someone put their forehead to my forehead. Everyone had my hands. People put their hands onto my stomach. And they were all calming me down, telling me that life is good here. You have a family. You have a life here. Come back. We love you here. And all I remember from that moment is it sounded like a tornado, like the Dorothy tornado. And the wind was just in this farmhouse and it was making like I was coming into my body and it was a tornado landing and then thump and I was back into my body. And then I just started crying very badly. I was shaking. I was really unsure of what really occurred. Like I remember everything, but I wasn't really feeling connected. I wasn't feeling connected to being Vanessa anymore. And so the facilitator gave me a few moments and then he said, "Go outside." It was like a early fall day. So he said, "Put your head onto the earth, ground, take deep breaths, and just reconnect with your body on the earth." So the moment when, it was like one of those beautiful farm doors with the screens, and I looked out and like every blade of grass, every leaf, the wind was blowing. It was just like the most greenest green, the most beautiful scene of this farm field, wind blowing, just beautiful nature, the bluest sky. And I went out and I just wept on the grass for probably a good hour and just tried to like resettle into my body. And that was a really challenging, touching experience. Something like I have never, I like I've had, I would call myself a mystic. I've had interesting experiences my whole life. I've had, you know, my imaginary friend when I was a kid. I've had those gut instincts that saved my life a couple of times, but I've never experienced anything like this before. And at that moment, like if the NN-DMT didn't shift me from the materialistic, hardworking mom, trying to work every day, getting those bucks, you know, trying to make it work out in this 9 to 5 regime, I was done. I was done with that. It started on my spiritual path. Yeah, it was a beautiful journey. My friend's partner, he came out, "Are you okay? Are you fine?" And once I said, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm just glad to be here and glad to be back in my body." And he goes, "Well, since you're good," he goes, "that was the best freaking MEO experience I've ever seen. Holy shit." And I was just like, well, I'm excited to see other people's experiences now. And after a few minutes, I went back in and I was able to sit and be with the others while they finished their journeys. But it's true, no one's experiences was like mine. And I've tried 5 after that a couple of times with the same facilitator, and my experiences were never the same. And his little saying was, "You can't ever step your foot in the river the same place twice." So I'll accept that. And I'll just put it up to just having the most experience, the most incredible experience that I've ever had in my life. Yeah.
Wow, that just is incredible, amazing. And then the emotion that it still brings up to
Oh,
this
yeah.
day really speaks to how the powerful impact that it's had. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And it really continued on to the next day. I was obviously sober. I went home that night and I was in awe. I was in an area called the Blue Mountains, which is just about an hour from where I lived, Collingwood, Ontario. Going through the Blue Mountains, looking at the scenery, experiencing the beauty, and just it was kind of like a rebirth. I really felt like I was reborn. And I got home, had a great dinner with my kids. We spent time. We didn't really talk because I had younger ones, right? So I didn't really talk to them about the experience. My eldest was in grade 12, and then I have a grade 10, and then a son. I think he was probably in like grade 2 or 3 at that time. So they had a 7 years difference from my youngest to my oldest. And I remember I took Monday off because I knew I'd need to integrate. I probably needed a whole week after that, but you don't know at the time. You think, oh, one day's good. I'll be fine. And I got a rude awakening from my son Monday morning, my eldest, calling me and saying, "Mom, you need to come up to the dentist office. They want you to pay the bill." I had all those X-rays because he was going to do the Invisaligns or whatever. And I said, "Okay." And I go, "And how much was that again?" He goes, "Oh, $800." So here I am going, I just, you know, came back from heaven, and here I am the next day having to worry about my bills again. So I dropped my youngest son off at school and made my way up to the dental office. And when I arrived into the office, strangely, there was no one in the reception office, not one soul. And I walked up to the office and I'm looking around. I put my purse up onto the counter and I'm waiting. And then all of a sudden, a song I've never heard before started being really loud, like it was blasting. And it was, I don't know if you know the song, No, You're Not Alone by Phil Phillips. No, you're not alone. We're gonna make this place your home. And the song kept going on, and I kept hearing the lyrics, and I'm like looking around, like, this song is for me. This is a communication to me to know that I am here and I'm not alone and that everything's going to be okay. And as I started to think that, the receptionist came running in and turned the music down. She goes, I don't know what's going on with this speaker. It's acting so weird. So she turns it all back down. I pay my bill, and then I'm back at home. When I got home, I was really not grounded. Like, I was, what just happened at the dental office? Um, what did I just experience? What was that song? I'm Googling it on my phone. I'm listening to the lyrics over and over, knowing that this song was for me, was played for me. And unknowingly, I forgot that I thought, oh, well, I need to ground myself. I'm not really sure how to do that right now. I'm like spinning. So I grabbed my little cannabis pipe that I did N N-DMT in a few weeks before, and I filled it with cannabis and I took a puff. And I had my shower running and everything. I was about to just hop into my shower. Like, I took this puff and then I realized, oh no, that had N N-DMT in it. So I felt okay. I thought the shower will just help me calm. I walked into my shower. I had been suffering with a bit of a sore neck, and the pain was really, really bad in my neck when I got into the shower. And I just asked God, please take the pain away. And then I just started crying. And then all of a sudden, I'm feeling this sensation in my chest. And that feeling was, I feel my higher self. So I was now talking to my higher self. And what I know that feeling to be was the same feeling that I had of my imaginary friend when I was a kid. And I felt this wholeness. And I felt like this person who again was gone for a long time was now here with me in my chest. And we were having this conversation. And he's like, everything's going to be fine. You're okay. You're doing great. You're a great mom. I love Lupo. That's our dog. He's like, Lupo is like the best dog. And he's just like cheering me on the whole way, all through my shower. And I'm like, who are you? Like, how are you talking to me? How am I hearing this? And he just said, I said, what's your name? And he wouldn't say, that will just confuse you if I tell you my name. So I didn't have a name. I, slowly just came out of the shower. I wrapped myself in towels, put my hair in a towel, and then, sorry, and laid down and just continued to have this conversation. And then all I remember is outside I have tons of bird feeders. I'm a bird lover. And I could just hear all my blue jays. They were going crazy. And I said, well, since we're talking, I'm just going to call you Jay. And he said, fine. And we just had this continual talk about like, this is, how you go forward. This is what you need to do. Just know you're okay. Know that your work is fine. Know whatever you're doing. I'm always here for you. I'm always helping you. I'm always guiding you. And then slowly I just kind of collapsed onto my bed and fell asleep, and that sensation went away. And I'm hoping one day it comes back real soon. It was amazing.
So this is all transpired 7 or 8 years ago. Give us like the update. Like how did things shift for you? How did, I
Yeah,
know you do some amazing work for people now to assist and everything. So
yeah,
give us like the last 8 years from those that trilogy of experiences.
right. Well, so I was single and I had sold my Pilates business and I was just working for others at that time. I had met Guy, my current husband now, um, at some events where we had done like the March Against Monsanto, and Guy was doing a lot of writing in that respect and of the environment and stuff. So, from my friends who hosted the 5-MeO ceremony, I reconnected with Guy at an event we were all at. And he started telling me about his experiences, his 5-MeO and his N N-DMT. And when I told him about my Egypt experience on N N-DMT, he was giving me all of these videos, The Magic of Egypt or something. It's a video series that you can buy. And it was all about Egypt and the real mystical knowledge about Egypt and everything. And soon after that, we got engaged. And then in 2019, we went to Egypt. Um, that was our honeymoon. We on a request from a friend who was going to join us, she said, I don't want to go to Egypt if it's going to be lame with a bunch of people that aren't spiritual minded. It's got to be vegan. And I was vegan and Guy was vegan at the time. And we're like, yeah, we hear that. So I went on Instagram and lo and behold, this guy pops up from England, Jerry Sargent from Star Magic. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's a character. We decided to go with Jerry on this journey in Egypt. I hadn't met him before. I hadn't been following him. And we got to Egypt. We spent 10 days there, 8 days, I believe it was, floating on the Nile in a Nile cruise. And because we were honeymooners, they gave us like the best spot on the boat at the head of the boat. We had our own balcony and everything. So every day we'd have coffee and we'd be out on the front of this boat, just sailing along the Nile. It was incredible. We spent a night in the Great Pyramid in the King's Pyramid, Cheops, and got a chance to meditate in the well, which they call the very bottom portion of the pyramid, the Queen's Chamber, and then the King's Chamber, where the sarcophagus is. Um, when we got there, it was next level. Like it was like being in a time warp. Guy was all out of sorts. We're like going in, we all have our groups A, B, C, D. You're supposed to stay with your group. We're not allowed our phones or our cameras. And then we're walking in and we're one of the last couples, and Guy's like, I gotta go pee. And I'm like, no, you don't. You don't have to go pee. We're going into the pyramid. So he separates from the group, tries to find the bathroom, but it's weird because we were in Egypt. It's under the stairs. It wasn't where in North America where you'd normally find the bathroom at the back of the bus type of thing. So he never did find it. He ended up coming in and we were all separated, and we all had like he separated from us, so we had different experiences in the pyramid because he ended up in another group than me. When I was in the well and we were meditating, I saw like alien beings, kind of like Grotto from Star Wars, if you know Star Wars at all, that character with the long nose. And he was talking to a reptilian. And I always say that, yes, like I'm interested in UFOs, I'm interested in aliens and stuff. I used to watch X-Files, but I'm in Egypt. I wasn't planning on seeing alien beings in my vision. So I take that in, jot it down in the books. Okay, this is what I saw when I meditated in the well. Then we went up to the Queen's chamber. And with Jerry was this beautiful woman that he brought to assist. And she was Irish and she sang these beautiful Gaelic songs while we were meditating. She said she just felt called. And then when she started singing, I felt like I needed to sing. And I'm not a singer, I don't sing much, but I started singing Elohim. And like I said before, I wasn't a real spiritualist. I was a materialist person. I wasn't religious. At the time, I didn't even believe, like when before I did five, I didn't believe in God. I thought, like, how could God be so cruel? How could this life be so hard? If there was a true God, how would I be experiencing such pain, such sadness, seeing such cruelty in the world? So that when I started singing Elohim, I didn't even know what that meant. So when we got back to the bus later on that evening, I was on my phone going, what is Elohim? Like, I don't even know. And it said another word for God. So I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I was calling out to God. That's normal. Don't ask me where Elohim came from, but okay. So that night when we go to bed, I have a dream where these hooded characters come in. They're all in robes. I can't see any faces, and they were lined up like 5-pin bowling. So one at the front, and then two behind, and then three or four, however it goes, like that, like a pyramid. And they said, you called us, child. What do you need? And I go, I did? I called you? And I'm like, in my dream, I'm lucid in this dream. I'm like, no, no, I'm good. We're okay. And I open my eyes and I'm like, what was that I just experienced? So I can only think now from my N N-DMT experience and then that night in the pyramid that I must have had a past life in Egypt. That's all I can figure out. That N N-DMT experience was me reliving a past life, a life where I now know I follow a bit of a Gnostic path. I follow a guy on YouTube named Gene Hart from Astral Doorway. So after all of my DMT experiences, I came to the conclusion that I want to get there naturally. I don't want to use a medicine to get to these locations when I know that I can do it through meditating, through chanting, through white tantra, which is not releasing your orgasm and pulling that energy inside of your body yourself. So that's how I kind of got onto this Gnostic path. And as I see, the Kundalini is what I experienced in my first N N-DMT experience when those snakes came up into my body. Also, I've discovered that the Templars, one of the first Templars, his name was like their last names, their surnames was Moore. And Morrell came from Moore. And I know now that we reincarnate into our own bloodlines. And I feel that maybe that was an ancestor of mine. And I'm coming back into the path of relearning our true selves, our true way to connect with God, which is through these practices that the Templars were doing and that we're just relearning now as a society in 2025 that have been kept from us in the mystery schools. It's not something that you would be, oh, you know what, do you want to get your Kundalini on and and raise your experiences. So I've learned over since 2017 that this was the start of my spiritual path. This was my path to the great work, as they call it, to really discover yourself and discover like the truth about God and who we really are as human beings. Yeah.
Wow. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So give us the update from the current you. Speak about whatever practices you're doing now and things because it's been so fascinating. I can't leave it at where you just left.
Well, I have been following Astral Doorway and Gene, and he's got a Discord and a Patreon. But really, I learned a lot just from his YouTube. So I started studying his teachings. There's another woman who does teachings called the Three Mountains, and they're all studying the work of a gentleman named Samuel On Wayor. And he wrote books. He's passed now. He's on the other side. But these teachings teach you how to do different mantras, how to do just meditation, how to use white tantra. So that's another thing that we do is that we'll, Guy's not so willing to not, let's say, spill his seed in a nice term, but I am really trying to do that practice and not have an orgasm and then pull that energy up into my body. And things start really happening when you're doing that. Like, I have a traditional Chinese medicine doctor. I don't go to like a regular doctor, let's say. And I was feeling like I had a bladder infection while I was doing all of these practices. So I went to her and she's like, "What are you doing?" She can always tell, like, when I'm doing something different that she hasn't experienced. She feels energy, she has her own guides. And I said, "I'm doing like a Kundalini practice. I'm raising my energy. I'm bringing my orgasm into my body, my own energy." And she goes, "Okay." And she gives acupuncture and then she always goes away. So when she gave me the acupuncture, she went upstairs to her office, I guess, and she starts researching about everything I said. Meanwhile, when she put the needles in, she said, "This isn't a bladder infection." And she's from Taiwan, so I'm not like speaking as well as she would, but she says, "This is trapped energy." And when she puts the needles in, I could really feel like it was like a battery charge into my belly. And then it sent the energy. So it was like blocked in my sacral chakra, and all the energy went flowing up and out of the top of my head. And I was like, "Whoa, thank you." Like I just felt such relief, like in my belly and in my back. And she said, you need to go easy on these practices. You haven't opened all of your chakras, so it's getting trapped." So I took what she said and then I went back to start learning, and I also joined a Kundalini group on Reddit, and there's a really great group of people there that you can ask different questions. So they mention like food, they mention trying to get on like in your shower, having the water rush on for grounding and getting things more flowing in your body, opening up your heart, doing more chanting, doing like yogic practices, one that's going to open different areas of the body that I needed open because my chakras weren't all the way open. I continued on my practices, but one funny thing is when I left my traditional Chinese medicine that doctor that day, I was starving. And I'm like, I'm going for an egg McMuffin. It's the worst thing to say, but I pulled right in to McDonald's, and I always just have an egg McMuffin with egg and cheese. So now I'm vegetarian. I needed my traditional Chinese medicine doctor told me I needed more protein in my diet. So I went to vegetarianism. So I pulled up to the drive-through and you see the screen and then everything goes black. And I'm like, "What is going on?" So she's like, "Oh, just pull through. I see your order here." So I pull through, I pay. Then I go over to the gas station trying to get the gas pump to work. It wouldn't work. It's not accepting my card. I'm putting it in. Nothing's happening. I'm like, "What am I doing wrong?" I drive around. I go to the next pump. It's not working. I can't figure it out. What's happening? So the girl's like, "Come inside and pay and set up the thing." So I'm like, "Okay." So I go in and pay. She sees my pendant And she's like, wow, your pendant, I love it. What kind of pendant? So I'm talking to her for like 20 minutes about my pendant and everything. And then I go back out, and then this gentleman comes up to me. He's wearing like a Star of David, and he's got all these dreads, and he's like, you have a really nice shape. And I'm like, oh, okay, thanks. Like just it creates an attraction. You've got this energy. People are just flowing to you. They want to know what you're doing. And finally the gas pump works and I fill up my car and then I head my 2 hours back up north. And I'm like, what is going on? So like it's all like a learning and a teaching. I didn't really know that this energy was so powerful and it's going to draw people to you. You're walking in the grocery store and people just stop and they stare at you. They want to know about you. They want to know what's different, why you're so full of this energy, why they're being pulled to you. They don't understand. So, and it took me a while to figure that out myself. And that's like a start of it all. So I took a little bit of a break because I felt I wasn't ready to be experiencing all those things. I needed to work more on my chakras. I had kids in school. I still had things to work on at home. And things were getting a little bit crazy with these practices. So I took a bit of a break. I created a sound table. I started getting into sound. For some reason, I had to create a sound table. I don't know why, how it happened. I just wanted to create the sound table. I know that sound is healing. And I purchased crystal bowls, and Guy and I started doing sound baths. And but I knew there was something else. So I took a form of Reiki. It's called TRTT, which is called the Radiance Therapy Technique, and it's out of Florida. And there's a lady near us here in Ontario who teaches it. So I did that. And then so I'm starting to learn about energy and healing and what happens with Reiki and how it helps the body. And I start using my hands on myself. I only had level one. So I'm doing the hands-on healing myself. And every day I'm doing Reiki and I'm still doing my meditation. But things got, things kind of slowed down. I fell out of my practices, and I was just really into my sound therapy then. And I had to get the sound bed created, but I didn't know how. So guys like, well, why don't you use your massage table that you have? And I go, that's a great idea, but I don't want to wreck my massage table. I think that I'm going to buy a massage table, and then if I screw it up, it doesn't matter. I still have my table. So like everybody, where do you find something? Facebook Marketplace, right? Used, cheap. And there was a lady who had a really long table. It lifted up, and I knew that 40 hertz was really great for healing Alzheimer's. So I thought, well, I want a table that's going to lift. So if people like the elderly come, they might not be able to lay right down. They might need to be lifted up. So this specific table, Guy and I we went back to Collingwood again. And this lady asked, what are you doing with the table? And I told her, well, I want to create a sound bed. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I have an idea of what I wanted to do. And then I wanted to use this table to make my sound bed. And she goes, you know what? This is really weird. And I'm like, what? She goes, my husband just created one, and he had knee surgery yesterday, and he's home. And you can talk to him all about it and how he created one. And I'm like, really? And she said, yeah. So he came upstairs. She called him. He pulled me into his sound treatment room. He was a cranial sacral therapist, and she did Bowen therapy. And he put me on the table and he showed me everything to do, where to get the transducers. I ordered them from England, how to place them on the bed, how to put the sound speakers all around, because I wanted to make sure it wasn't with Bluetooth, it was all hardwired. So I went on Facebook Marketplace again. I started ordering all of these receivers and speakers that I could get online really cheap. Everybody wants to go Bluetooth. No one wants hardwired anymore. So I just started ordering speakers, and I ordered the transducers, and then I built a sound room. So that is basically my latest kind of therapy that I'm doing, not only for myself and Guy and my family, if I convince my kids to go on the bed,
Mhm.
but I'm also giving Reiki on the bed. So I have people come. I'll put on a sound therapy, and sometimes we're using, I don't know if you've heard of the Luminate app, but it's an app where you can turn the phone at you and it flashes a light and you get closed eye visuals just with this flashing light. It's very similar to the Lucia light that is
Mhm.
out that people can purchase. So it's similar to that. So I give them that experience that draws them, kind of connects them to the body. And then I'll play a different couple of frequencies that I've set up for the hour. I give them Reiki, I give them healing. And what I've come to the conclusion is that I'm becoming like a medical medium. I can see where people have like their liver sore when I go over different parts of the body using the Reiki that I learned. And then I'm like, oh, well, this here, and I relate it back to traditional Chinese medicine. Although I'm not a practitioner, but I know here is your liver meridian. And when I place my hands here and I sandwich it on a person, I can feel the energy coming from there. And I can tell them, hey, what you're eating is maybe not so good. Your liver is kind of talking to me here and it's telling me this and that. I had a blood clot way back in the day, 2003. And I was doing therapy on a gentleman. And I'm like, I don't know what's happening as I come over his lung. But I said, my left leg, where I had my blood clot, is numb and tingling right now. I go, do you have something going on with your lung? He goes, yeah, I had a blood clot and I'm on blood thinners right now. And I'm like, oh, well, that makes so much sense because my left leg is going crazy right now. And I had a blood clot in my left leg. And it's just this continuing experience now. This has opened me up to my true path, which is, I guess, some kind of healer, which another story to be told one day is when I was 19, I went to a psychic and he said I'd be a Reiki healer. And back, I'm 54 now. So when I was 20, 34 years ago, I didn't even know what Reiki was. So somehow I researched and I'm like an energy healer. Okay, yeah, sure, buddy. I'm going to be an energy healer. And here I am 54 years later, and that's exactly what I'm doing. So he got it right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Vanessa, this has been nothing short of an amazing conversation. I appreciate you sharing the full scope with us, as it were. I do look forward to having you and Guy on to talk about Sana and the work that you're doing with that. That fascinates me.
Awesome.
Um, but for the moment, I just heartfelt gratitude and appreciation for you stepping up and taking the time and really opening up so beautifully. Um, so looking forward to making a trip to your part of the world, up in Canada, and spending
For
time with
sure.
you and Guy and having
For
some experiences. So thank you
Awesome.
so
Thank you
much.
so much for having me. It's such a great honor to release and tell everyone about these experiences and what, I truly feel it is a spiritual medicine. And, if you are possibly suffering with depression, that these medicines can help you and put your life back on track. So thank you for letting me relay that to others.
I appreciate that. It's the whole point of the DMT Chronicles. Thank you for being a guest today.
Thank you for having me.